Hi, my name is Melissa, and today I will be talking to you about the components panel, where it is, how to insert your components into your model, how to create your own components, and the different ways to create a window. So if you can follow now along with the training, the PDF or the document, if you open the East drawing, you should see what I have right now on my screen. We already have prepared for you guys some boundaries and some lines along. And one of the first steps will be to see where our components panel is. If you see on my screen, here are all the different types of components. If you cannot see this, then you probably just, all you have to do is right click on the panel, go to the panels selection, and here you can see if this is not checked, then you just have to left click with your mouse and you should be able now to see the components panel on your screen as well. And there's also different types of libraries already by default. You can always click on the menu, and if you were to click on the menu, you have different options here, and here you can see that I have the BricsCAD BIM component checked, but you can also check on the BricsCAD design library. I would just do that so you can also see it, and it adds some extra components, and these are mainly for mechanical. So if you're not in the mechanical, it's okay if you don't have them, but you can always access them by just once again going to your components, then menu, and selecting the BricsCAD design library. I'm just going to uncheck because I won't be using them anytime soon. And we're going to go ahead and go into Windows and select the window 1.1, which is this one right here. Now, as you can see, the moment I drag the model or just left click, the properties panel comes active. So if I can just zoom in here. And here you can see the properties of the window I'm right now inserting into my model. And you can already also change the dimensions if you want to. So here I'm going to put one extra zero, so it's 10,000, and here I will do the same thing, an extra zero, and notice how now it has changed its size. And if I were to now drag my window to this face, I'm going to orbit. And in case you forgot, orbit is shift and then the middle mouse. And if I were to click now on tab, I can toggle through the dimensions to position the window. Let's say here on the left side, I'm going to do 1700, and these numbers, you can find them also in the document from the training. And if I were to then go on the bottom, I believe on the training also says 1000 as well. And if I were to click now on the Control key, you can see how now I have different dimensions. And here, this kind of dimensions you see now are being displayed is also the measurements from the window. So either you change them on your properties panel, or you can just change them here using the Control key. Right now I'm not going to change them, but I can show you if I were to change this. You see how now it becomes a bit smaller, but I'm going to go back to the 1000, then Control, Enter, and there's my window. Now you can see I already have a window. And let's say after you created this window, you would like to copy this window to distribute on your model. You can do that by hovering on the window. Then the quad is going to already suggest some things for you. But if you just go to the model, here you have the BIM insert. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see which command I'm talking about. That's this one right here. So if you were to click here, now you can see that I have the same windows with the same dimensions, and I can just drag them anywhere in my model. Sorry, I forgot to mention, if by any chance your components are not attaching to your faces, it's probably because your UCS and your dynamics are not on the right settings. So you can just go here on dynamic UCS to turn them on, and your dynamic inputs. It's very important that these are on as well. Now I'm just gonna undo this because I don't need more than that window for this exercise. One thing to mention, what's happening on the background. So whenever I'm going to my components here, and whatever I'm selecting, what is executing is the BIM insert command. So let's say you have a component, but it's not on your library, it's a component that you save somewhere else in your computer. You could also find them by accessing the same command, BIM insert, and that's you can see it on the ribbon here. So if you're in the home, then here insert, if I were to click here, now you can just browse and look wherever you have the component that you would like to insert. Now let's say you already inserted your window, but you still would like to change some of the dimensions as possible. If you were to select in this window, then go to your properties panel. And just in case, this little icon here, that is your properties panel. And it's just the same way. If it's not available for you, it's not displaying right now, you just have to right click, then go to the panels, and there you could select your properties panel from. Okay, I'm gonna exit here for a second. So one more time, I'm gonna select the window, and if I go here to the bottom, you could see the dimensions and the other type of measurements and parameters that you can change. Also, not only this parameters, but also in the glazing type, this IFC properties, you can also put whatever values you want. And here on the BIM, you can also apply some numbers to it or change some of these values as well if necessary. There's already a section created for you. If you just double click for the clip-in, or from the quad you can also just select this icon, and that's for the clip-in. It will turn it on or off. So let's say you want to put a door. I'm gonna choose the single door. It works the same way as it did with the window. You can toggle through the dimensions with the tab key. I'm gonna put here on the left side 450. And how about we just put a 0 so it's right at the floor. And if I were to click Control, you can see you have also the same functions as it is with any other component, such as the window. You can also change the properties from here. And if you want to get out of this mode, you can click Control one more time. And same thing, you can also change its dimensions from the property. gonna for some reason my dimensions were overwritten, so I'm just gonna click now enter, and there's my door. Now notice that the door has a swing to it, and that's for the whenever it does the section plane for your 2D plans. But we have also a function here if you can access from the quad. If you were to go to the model, you have a BIM flip or a BIM, sorry, there's two types of BIM flip, and one of them is for the swing, to flip the swing, or to flip the opening itself, which side will it be. So if I were to click right now on the BIM flip, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see which one I'm selecting. The BIM flip, you can see that the swing is still on the same side of this room, but it just flipped the opening. If I were to hover again over my door and go to model, and if I were to click this, now the opening is in the opposite direction of it. Now let's say you want to customize a library component, an existing one. That's also possible. If I were to use, for example, here, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see where I'm going. The furnishing elements, if you left click one time is enough. Let's see, I'm going to use the furniture desk. Just going to place it here. So yeah, let's say you want to customize this. That's also possible. You just have to hover your mouse over that desk, and from the quad, if you were to go on the model tab and click on open a copy, what BricsCAD does, it opens that element on a new drawing, and from there you can do the tweaks you want. And once you're done, you can go back here on the components panel. On the bottom you have the create component. So if you were to click here, you can give it a name, then you can choose where would you like to save it as, and you can either select entities, but because this drawing is specifically already for that component, you can just use the whole drawing, and if you click OK, it will go automatically to your components library. Now on this section we will be talking about creating a component. What we'll be creating right now will be the window. Now this section is about creating a custom component. If you look at the document, the component that we'll be creating is a window. So if we go to BricsCAD under the File menu, and that is here. If you go to New Wizard, if you select that function, you have a dialog box of creating a new one. Make sure you select Start from Template, then Next, and select the BIM window metric. If this is by any chance unchecked, make sure it's not checked. Otherwise, it's always gonna try to start with this template. Once you've done that, you can click Finish. I'm gonna hide my components panel for a second. So what we have now is a preset drawing with already the necessary layers for a window or for a door. I'm gonna go ahead and open my layer, the panels for the layers. If you do not have it, it's the same step. Just right click somewhere here in a blank area and look for the layers. And if you just have to select it, and you should now be able to also see your layer panel. Once again, like I said, this drawing, because of the template that we use, this layer is already created for you. You can see the subtract, door frame, a panel, extra glass, a sill, window frame, and so on. Now, there are two different ways of interacting with the layers. So you can either do it from the layers panel, or you can just go here to the access toolbar and it has the same functionality. I personally will be using the layers here on the top, and I'm gonna start with subtract, making my layer subtract current, and I did that by just selecting it. Now from my quad, I'm gonna access the tool to create a box. I will go ahead and put starting from the 0.000. And let's just follow what our document has. Let's give it a dimension of 1500 and then 700. And once I click enter, I get to put the depth of it. I'm gonna go downwards and I will put 600. It's not so important, the 600. What is important is that you have to keep in mind, right now what we're building is a window, and most of my walls are not gonna be bigger than, what, 40 centimeters? So your subtract just have to be bigger than the thickness. Well, it has to be thicker than the thickness of your wall, because the subtract is going to be what's going to create the opening in those walls. So once this is created, now I'm going to change my current layer so it is to window frame. That if you're not getting these options like I'm getting, if face is not highlighting, you're having a different type of display, it might be because you have to put this selection modes on the selections, faces, and the boundary detection. So now let's do an offset, and I would do that by going here on the draw, then offset. And let's give it an offset of 40. Okay, now that we have that, we're gonna extrude this boundary, and we're gonna do that by using the extrude tool. Now notice how when I'm going downward, it is subtracting, and we don't want that. In order to change that, you just have to click Control. And now the mode is on create instead of control. You can also see here on your command line where it is right now. So right now I'm on create. Sometimes by default it's an auto, and it's probably recognizing that if you're going down it's subtracting. So if you're not happy with the auto setting, then you can just specify that you want to create. Okay, let's give it a value of 100. And now we have our frame. So now that we have the frame, we can turn off the subtraction. And I would turn it off on the layers. Some people might choose to hide them, but it's best if you just turn it off. Now you have, before we continue, let's make the glass now current. And once your boundary is highlighted, let's extrude. And let's extrude it upward to 25. Let's give a value of 25. Now once you extrude, I'm going to select my solid. And if you're wondering how I'm selecting my solid, I'm just pressing the Control key and then it's hover over. Now that I have the manipulator, I'm gonna move it downwards 75. And there's my window. Now I'm just gonna undo this for a second. Let's say when you selected your solid, the glass solid, the manipulator did not show. It's okay, you can always access the manipulator from the modify here in the quad, and you can do the same thing. Now you'll be able to apply. Okay, so now we have a window. Let's classify. Now, why do we want to classify? Let's go real quick in the properties. Right now, the properties that are being displayed is just the CAD properties. So if you want to use this window on your BIM, there's not going to be any BIM data, and you definitely want to have the BIM on your BIM model. So how can you change that? You can then type on your command line BIM classify. I'm going to zoom in so you can see is this command, and I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see it's asking you how do you what entity you want to choose from. It's going to be a wall, column, slab, beam, or so on, and we're just going to do type I for window, and then we're going to click enter. Now it's going to ask you, it's going to prompt to select entities or a drawing. Because this is a component, you want to do the entire drawing, so you just have to click enter one more time, because by default it is drawing. And let's see what happens now on the properties panel. As you can see now, it not only is the CAD properties, but also the BIM properties. Now it recognizes there is a window, and it has some of the IFC formats into it as well. So all is left is to create the component itself, so it shows on your library, and you can do that by going one more time here on the create component from the component panel. I'm gonna call it my bin. I already had created another one, so I'm just gonna give it a number, but you don't have to. And now I'm gonna select to put it on the windows. And once again, this entire drawing is a component. I don't need to select entities. I'm just going to leave as it is to use the drawing as a component, and click OK. So let's say I go back to my drawing east. I'm going to double click to turn off the clipping, and I'm going to go here to my windows, and as you can see, the window we just created should be displaying here. If you do not see the window you just created, then you should just go to the menu, and where you see generate thumbnails, you just have to click there, left click, and if you were to go to Windows, you should be able to see it now. So now I'll be showing you different ways of creating windows, besides the one with the components. And that is with using the tool create window. I'm just going to zoom in here on my ribbon. Under modeling, here is create window. So we will be using this function, or this command, to create windows in a different way. I'm just going to orbit here for a second. Right now my selection mode is, I'm going to also zoom in so you can see, I have face and boundary mode on. So if I click right now on create window on my, it's going to prompt here on the command line. Maybe, you know what, I'm just going to exit here for a second. I'm going to escape, and I'm going to bring my command bar so it's a bit clearer for everybody. So once again, create window, and here you can see it's asking, is it going to be a boundary or closed polyline or a grid and by default it's going to create a window, but if you were to type O, then it's going to create an opening. Okay, so all I have to do is either select a boundary or a polyline. I'm going to show you first what it is by selecting the polyline. Make sure that your polyline, it is closed, not open. Now that I selected, like I say, by default it's Windows, so all I have to do is click enter one more time. And now I have the dialog box of which style of window. I'm just going to select a single one. And here we go, now we have a window. I'm going to undo, because now I'm going to show you with the boundary. If I were to create, select again the same command, create window. Now you see how it highlights. I can select any of those boundaries if I wanted to. I'm going to select one. Click enter, the dialog box, I click single. And I'm just going to undo it because I forgot to say this. You don't have to select one by one, you can do multiple ones. So let's say I selected this boundary, I can also select this other boundary as well. And if I click enter, now I have the dialog box, I select a single one, and voila, now we have two windows here. Okay, now we did it with the polyline, we did it with the boundary. How about we do, I'm going to show you now with the grid. So now if you're in the non-selection mode, I right click somewhere in my model space, and from the quad I have here this option, this function. Or to zoom in here, this icon that you see here, that's to create a BIM grid. So, it still keeps the same UCS, so that's good. Aha, here. So you might get this the first time, so if your UCS are aligned with this slope, just bring your cursor into an open space and bring it back, maybe align it with this face and then bring it back to this face, and now you have the, a good UCS. You can press shift, I'm just going to zoom out, to lock into that face, and now I just click anywhere here. And I'm going to change some dimensions. I will keep the columns at 5,000. I will just give the rows 1,200. And you can either drag, let's say you create a grid, have the 2,500, or you can a block put it like that. And you want to use that. It's not going to work yourself. You have to make sure that your grid has now the BIM grid value to it. It's a BIM grid. Either you can do it once again from the ribbon, or here if you hover, you can see it is a block on the grid. It's not just it's going to suggest it already for you, or you can just you can see the properties here. That also has the BIM properties. And there you go. Now you have another set of windows here as well. You can just delete this and your windows will stay. Okay, so that was with the grid. How about show you guys now the curtain wall. If the curtain wall can be accessed from the model tab on the ribbon. I'm just going to zoom in here. So now the home button modeling, and here this icon represents the curtain wall. So if I click there, it's going to prompt me to select a face. So I select this one. If I were to change the rows, right now it is, I type NU to change the amount of rows. I'm going to click only one. And then NV for the amount of columns. And here I will put the value 5. As you can see now it changed, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click enter. And you can here change a certain things such as the width, the depth, and the glass thickness or connection type. But I'm not going to go so much into depth. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our support page on the BricsCAD website. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and continue by accepting these values. And there we go. Here we have another set of windows using a different type of tool. Okay, now on the files that were provided by you, you should also have a drawing called curtain walls. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that one. And here we have done a special grid. But once again, this grid, if you go to the properties, it is a BIM grid. So once again, make sure that it is it has this properties, otherwise it's not gonna work for you. So if I were to either select and from the quad or from the ribbon, doesn't matter, you will still have the same result with whichever command. But here we go. We have once again customize window. Now here's we gave another sample. This surface was created with the loft function, but we can still do a curtain wall to it. So if you just go to the ribbon, select on the curtain wall, and it's gonna ask me to select a face. I select this face, and the values that it has right now is not so smooth, so I will go ahead and give it a different length. I will do first LU, type LU, then enter, and it's gonna ask me for a value. I'm gonna change to a value of 1500, and that now I'm gonna type LV, enter, and I would do the same thing, type the value 1500, click enter, and as you can see now it's a bit smoother, the surface with this type of values. Then I'm gonna click enter one more time. Now before it did not give us this prompt because the other surfaces, they were a planar surface, but this one is not, and that's why it's asking you now if you want to make it a planar, yes or no. Usually you do want this to simplify your geometry, but here that's not the case, so I'm just gonna select no. And once again, if you want a little bit more info, you can find all this information in our website on the help support site. We could, how about here, if I click C, it's gonna give me the prompt for the connection. Here you have straight, smooth, or nodes. If I click smooth, then enter, then now I can accept it. It just takes a few seconds. And here you can see when I click S for smooth, this is the type of connection it creates for you. The other one that's by default is the straight one. It doesn't have like those type of collections. If I just go back here, maybe here you can see also these are the default connections, straight. And here you can see the difference with the smooth selection or setting, the smooth setting, yeah. Okay, that's about it for the curtain walls and different types of, curtain wall, and for the other type of windows using the polyline or boundaries.